Alright, let me give you a demonstration of this Polysix. I've switched it on here in basic settings right now. We just have a very simple sine wave. And let's start first by running through all of the keys. Right, all the keys are working great. Over here, let's start over here with first of all the output volumes. You can see it's only set to high. There's low, and of course off. You can adjust the master volume here. Slight little bit of scratchiness, but once it's stable, then it doesn't make any difference. Here's the master tuning for the entire keyboard, which I currently have at the middle. And the intensity bender we can use to set how far this bender ranges. Currently I've got it to 3 semitones. Let's go all the way up to 10. I like it at 3. Also notice that the Polysix bender does not have a spring return, so you'll notice that it does have a notch at 0 where it flips into that notch, but you can leave it at maximum. Right, lastly over here the modulation generator, which is the mod wheel. This applies modulation only to the oscillator's frequency, so to the VCO, regardless of what the setting is, but it does set it at the speed of the frequency right here. So that's working great. To apply modulation, of course, to the filter or to the amplifier for the tremolo effect, you can do that here directly, but it's not affected by the mod wheel. So the way Korg designed this keyboard is this is only purely set to only apply modulation directly to the frequency. Right, so let's go through the octave switches. Octave currently set to 8 feet, drop down to 4 feet, 16 feet. Over here we got the sawtooth waveform. There's the pulse width waveform, of which you can set the width with this slider until it eventually vanishes. It goes so narrow on the pulse width. And lastly we can go to pulse width modulation, which will vary this width based on this speed. So let's go quite high, and then we can adjust the speed. All the way through to extremely fast. And of course if we turn this all the way up, pretty radical sounds. Right. In addition to that we have our sub oscillator. Currently it's set to off. It's 1 octave down. And it's 2 octaves down. Working great. Right, so let's go to the modulation section over here. We can adjust the modulation frequency. I'll just turn this on. You can see we can slow that down, very slow. And the LED indicates the speed over here. Right the way through to and that's extremely fast on the LFO. So that was width. However, we can also apply that permanently to either the VCO or the VCF or the VCA, and we can apply how much with this level. There we go. To the VCO, to the filter, which is not having much effect because the filter is currently open, and I'll show you that later. Or to the amplifier, getting a tremolo effect. Lastly, we can delay how long it must take before that actually takes effect. So now on 0 it's immediate. If you start delaying that, or delay it further, even further. Or even further. Which, as you can hear, is pretty long. Right, I'll turn that down for now. Let's get to the famous filter. This is what gives this thing all the character. Right now the filter is completely open. Let's close it down a bit. can hear how warm this filter is. Right the way down to nothing at this frequency. And along with this, we have set the resonance, which can be driven into strong self-oscillation. So that's working great. And then of course how much of the envelope is applied to the filter is done in a positive or negative manner. It's got a bit of a notch here at 0, so it stops at 0, and then you can of course turn it either way, and I'll demonstrate that to you in a moment. Right, so we'll open the filter about halfway. Add a bit of resonance. Then lastly we have keyboard tracking. That's the difference between the filter in the highest and the lowest position and how much that must vary. Currently it varies 0, but of course we can change that. So if we close this filter off a little and we turn up the keyboard tracking, you can hear that it's quite bright. Bright up here. And it's a lot more closed down here. And we can make that much more intense as well. Let's go all the way up to 8. You can turn it down slightly. So it's pretty open at the top. And quite closed at the bottom here, so it's most intense. Right, so that's keyboard tracking. So let's open this filter a bit. Let's take a look. So you can set over here whether the mode must be just gated or envelope. Now currently I've got the attack indicate minimum, sustain at max, so we're just getting exactly the same effect. But let's start altering that so we can slow down the attack. And if we reduce the sustain, we can slow those down further. So they're working great. And of course the release. Turn these a bit down a bit. Of course if we start using this, we can start applying this to the filter as well. I'm going to gate the envelope just for the VCA, but use it for let's make it a bit more resonant. And of course we can go into the inverse. So with the inverse envelope, of course, we're getting the filter opening at the speeds sustained by this envelope. Right. So back to some basic settings here. Here's the attenuator, which is basically a volume control for the sound, and this is stepped. Positive or negative. Notice that this attenuates both the oscillator and the sub-oscillator. There's no way to control the volume of those two separately. They're always linked together by volume. Right, so now we get to the second half of this keyboard, some of the interesting features here. The first one, of course, are the famous effects. Now I've got them all switched off at this point in time, but this is where we really start to add some incredible life to this synthesizer. So let's switch on the chorus. Notice that the first two, the chorus and the phaser, the intensity dial is intended for speed. So we can add the speed of this chorus. You can hear that accelerating. Right, let's play the phaser. Let's slow that down. You can hear that this one. And if you slow down a lot, you can hear the phase effect. It's quite a mellow phasing, it's not as intense. The best effect by far though is the ensemble, and that's what gives this Polysix those famous strings. Usually I crank this up very high. Soften this a little bit. Get a bit more resonance. Absolutely wonderful. Right, on the next section here we can get to the arpeggiator, which is basically this button and these settings over here. There's a separate oscillator over here just for the speed of the arpeggiator. Right now it's switched off, so if I switch it on, let's take it in its basic setting. You can switch on latch, so I can let go and we'll play, let's play an augmented chord. And we can crank up the speed all the way up to 10. And we can go more than one octave, or we can go full range. We can go up, we can go down, or we can go up and down. Arpeggiator. Alright, everything's working there. Let's get now to these last couple more party modes over here, which are these key assigned modes. Now up until now we've been using this entirely in poly mode, and it's sounding pretty amazing. Let's turn the effects all the way off so you can hear just a clean sound. Very clean. In unison mode, of course, it stacks all 6 oscillators and slightly detunes them. So let's take that. Very powerful leads. Next one is pretty interesting, chord memory. So what you do here is before you switch it on is you can pick a chord. Let's say we want this augmented chord. I'm just going to hit that chord right now. And so every single note that you play is that chord. And of course you can hold those. You can hold the unison as well, I believe. And poly, I don't believe you can. You hold it? Oh, you can. Fantastic. So we have hold in each of the modes. Then last but not least, we get the storage memory. Now, this particular Polysix has already has the battery repair done to it already, so which means everything here is working absolutely fine. Up until now we've had it in manual mode all the way, but we can start using some of these presets. Now, apart from the very first patch, all the rest that are loaded are the factory defaults, so let's have a listen to some of them. This one is a pretty basic patch, but here's some factories. Even a nice bell sound with some tremolo. And there's a number, an awful accordion. Nice clicky organ. So I see all 8 of them.